The peal of church bells rang out across medieval Britain. You got up, prayed and worked to their sound. The Christian church influenced almost every waking hour. From cradle to grave, it gave rhythm to your days, and to your weeks, and to your year. And so medieval churches are bustling with life, often in ways that you would not expect. By the Middle Ages, the church had come to embrace every aspect of life. I'm Richard Taylor. I write books about the meaning of Britain's churches. I believe we've forgotten how to read the language of these buildings. But if we care to look, we can connect directly with our ancestors' deepest hopes and fears. I'll be looking at medieval wall paintings, carvings, angels and demons to discover just how the church came to permeate everyday life so completely. Churches originally served to shelter the altar, the focal point for the most important Christian ceremony, the Eucharist. The early churches were often simple and crudely built. But the medieval period was a golden age of church construction. Building techniques and artistry soared to new levels. From the 13th to 15th centuries, impressively decorated churches like this rose up all over Britain. The interiors were recreating heaven on earth, and what better way to evoke that heavenly world than with angels? Many churches have angels in them, but none are quite like Blytheborough. The angels here are hovering over the heads of the congregation. Everyone is as different as the people underneath them, their faces, their hands, their hairstyles. Originally, these would have been painted in green and black and covered in gold leaf. And the impact, especially for people who didn't see highly decorated images in their day-to-day lives, must have been overwhelming. I love the way their wings are thrown apart, and on every one there's a crown, a golden crown. I wonder if people would have picked their favourite angel back then and felt that they were watching over them. This glimpse of heaven inside the church contrasted with the difficult and devilish world outside. Life was seen as a battleground between good and evil. Malign forces were constantly at work to cause mankind suffering and destruction. Life in the Middle Ages was lived on a cosmic scale. Invisible devils surrounded you, said one writer, as numerous as the motes of dust on a sunbeam. Bad harvests were the work of the devil, so was illness, so was violent storm. But the forces of darkness trembled before the forces of good, and it was through the church and its teaching that you could obtain protection and sanctuary. The church offered this protection from cradle to grave, and it started with a key rite of passage: baptism. The font is the focus of this ceremony, so important that you'll find one in pretty much every church. I'm on my way to a very special example. The beauty of this one is that it's going to illustrate everything that a font is for and the story that lies behind the ceremony of baptism. This is a very simple little church. Oh gosh, that meets you as soon as you walk through the door. Ooh, golly. I've seen pictures of you, but this font is bearing down and crushing the bodies of 3 figures, although this is the only one that's still entire. The idea is that the very act of baptism is crushing the evil spirits, whether this is an evil spirit or whether this is a man who's locked in the chains of sin. He's actually got a bit of a look of resignation on his face. The font would have been filled almost to the brim. The priest would have taken the infant and plunged them into the water. The idea being that you wanted to cover every inch of the child's skin so that there was no way in for the devil. You can see the signs that this font once had a lid, with a lock. The holy water was thought to have mystical powers. Font covers were used to prevent people from making off with it, for magical rituals, lucky charms, or to sprinkle on their crops. The covers became works of art in their own right. This is the baptism of Christ. What you've got going on here is the figure of John the Baptist here, the figure of Christ in the middle being baptized in the River Jordan, slightly bandy-legged actually, and the hand of God descending from on high, and the Spirit of God descending on Jesus. This is an image of the beginning of it all, where it all began. Although this is a very early medieval font and a very early image of the baptism of Christ, it's an image that you'll find on fonts everywhere. The fact that you can drive through the Herefordshire countryside, open the door and find something like this standing in front of you is just extraordinary. It wasn't only newborn children who were taken under the wing of the church. There was also a special ceremony called churching for mothers who had survived the ordeal of childbirth. The medieval ceremony is long gone, but remarkably, here in Ranworth in Norfolk, evidence of it survives. Sorry, the church is closed this morning. Oh no. Ah, open. Fantastic. St. Helens is famous for its saints. It was believed that the saints had suffered on earth and were therefore sympathetic to human pain. In one area of the church, they are exclusively female, and this is where the ceremony of churching took place. So the women of the parish would have come here, perhaps, as a kind of special area for themselves?
Yes, they would. And it's probably here that they would be churched as well after giving birth, because this is a very important ceremony in the Middle Ages, which we don't think much about now. Women would come here to be cleansed and then go back into the church. And the church would be also, of course, receiving the child after baptism.
These beautiful images of mothers and children radiate maternal love. But who are the women in these paintings?
It's very female, all women. Here is St. Mary Salome with her 2 children. Then we have the Virgin Mary with Christ. And then Mary Cleophas with her brood of 4. So it's a very fertile family, and they're all little boys, which of course would appeal very much in the Middle Ages. And then you have the patron saint of childbirth, St. Margaret. She protects women throughout childbirth and at the time of delivery.
During their term, would they have been conversing, if you like, with these saints.
Yes, very much so, because, you know, if you have a stillbirth, for example, your risk of death is very high. So, you know, you would come here